All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College Application and Website Development, or AWD 1100 C# Programming Fundamentals with C# class, I'm doing a series of video presentations based on the PowerPoint slides for the textbook we're using for the class. As you can see on the screen, the book is Murock's C# 7th edition, and I've done presentations on chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11, and I'm in the middle of chapter 10. Probably will be 2 more presentations, this one, and then another one where I will do write a program, and then we'll jump into section 3. Okay? All right. So we left off last time right here. So we're about halfway through these slides. And it says the payment form displayed as a dialog box. Well, the idea here is if you put in a credit card number, a Visa and a credit card number, and you clicked OK, the idea is that it would bring up the record for Mike Smith type of an idea. Well, all I want to tell you is what I did do in the last tape is I did create an application with multiple forms. Now, form border style, control box, maximize, and minimize. If you look up on the screen, notice that here we've got a minimize button, a maximize button, and basically an exit button. And here they've all been removed. All right, so you don't have the ability to do that from this particular form. And that's what they're talking about in here. You can also put, as it says, border styles on a form if you want to do that. So this was the code that created and displayed the custom dialog box. It's very similar to what I just showed you, all right, in the previous tape. Now, an enumeration that works with dialog boxes, well, the only thing I'll tell you about this is we've done a little bit of work with dialog result. What do I mean with that? Well, if I go back into here and I look, don't worry about this right now, but I just wanted to show you this. Where are we here? And that is in our exit the program. We're using the dialog. All right, and we're using a dialog. We're having that dialog result equal the results of our message box.show to ask us if we want to remove, to quit the program. So they're talking about that now, but we've already talked about it. Now, I will have a lot to say once I'm actually doing the lecture, going into, when I say doing the lecture, I mean when we're going through the book in class about the tag property. The tag property is kind of a neat thing in that if I come and bring this up, this is the program we're going to do in just a little bit. But if you look on here, so if I click on here, this is a list box, and you'll notice that if I go down, there's a tag property with it. If I go to the form, there's a tag property with it. If I go to the other, or the text box rather, if I go to the other text box, there's a tag property. If I go to the button, there's a tag property. Even if I go to the form, there's a tag property. Labels have a tag property, which you very rarely, if anything, will do something with. But the tag property, what it does, for lack of better words, and let's just keep this simple, it allows you to reference any control on a form, including the form itself, with a unique type of an ID. All right, and that may not seem important now, but as we move on, it'll become more and more important. All right. So they do start to show you some of the stuff in here. And this is, again, as it says, how to use the dialog result enumeration. So what, you can set it up for an OK button, a cancel button, a yes, no button, etc. Whatever you need it to do. The tag property, as I said, this is something new in here. And as they mentioned, it provides a convenient way to pass data between forms. All right, a dialog box can set its tag property. It says you must explicitly cast it to the appropriate type of data it receives. Well, where that is going to become important, again, is when we get into these chapters and we look at some of the code that's in there, because what the tag property will allow us to do will be to write more generic types of routines. What do I mean by that? Let's suppose for a second that we had a form that was asking for 3 pieces of information. So let's say that it was asking, I'm just making this up, how much money do you make a year? How much money do you think you're worth making? It's worth you making a year. And how much money do you think you would need to right now to retire comfortably? So in other words, it would be asking you for 3 different decimal amounts. All right. Well, if we wanted to check for A, is there a value in there, period? B, is the value numeric? And C, let's just say, is the value greater than 0? We don't want to write 9 routines, one for each one of those 3 text boxes. We want to write 3 routines and use each of the 3 times. That's what we're going to be allowed to do, especially using the tag. Okay, so we've already looked at message box buttons, icons. I didn't use the default button, but we've used the dialog result. And they've got examples here. Again, I just show this right away in class. All right, just because I think that we should use it right away. All right. They do mention in here about checking the user's response. So in this case, only if you clicked yes. So if you click no, you're doing nothing. If you click yes, this stuff will happen. Should look pretty, familiar to you, and it hopefully at least makes a lot of sense to you. Now, they talk here about the form's closing event. There is a difference between the form's closing event, close ending with ing, and closed ending with ed. With the closing event that they show here, you can ask the user, for example, a question. And if they say, no, we don't want this to happen, or yes, we do, you can make sure that the form does or does not close based on their result. All right. This is similar to what we've been doing with our exit button. It's not the same thing. What I want to get across to you, though, is when you use the closed event, CLOSED, the form has been closed. So with closing, it has not yet been closed. With closed, it has been closed. Okay? That's what they're showing here. All right. So now they've got this customer form. Okay, that's fine. And they've got, as it says here, you'll notice there's 2 versions of a payment dialog box. In the first one, you've chosen credit card, so the stuff in here is no longer being disabled, and this is not being disabled. But if you choose bill customer, you'll notice that the credit card type, the card number, the expiration year or month, and the expiration year, all of those, once you choose edit customer, so once you choose that radio button, all of these become disabled. But if you choose that radio button, all of them are enabled. So they show how to build that. I'm not going to run through this. We're going to do an example that's at the end of the chapter, so I'm just going to buzz through that quickly. And again, there's nothing wrong with the example at all. They work with the one that I've shown you previously. So the one I'm going to do is this one right here, because I think it shows a lot of different things. It allows us to build, I'm not going to say a great app, but it's a decent app. So I'm going to do this one in just a couple minutes. I've already done it, so I'm basically going to replicate it for you. And I'm not going to do this one or this one or this one. So I'm done. But rather, because I'm only, 9 minutes in, so rather than do that, I'm going to actually just include and start to create this program right now. Okay? So again, as I've been doing, let's see, did I save this one? Yeah. This is what we want to do. Convert the value the user enters based on the conversion type. So I'm going to come in here, and I've already got it done. So I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to go back and really redo it for you in just a second. So I've got my Chapter 10 programs right here. And it says this is empty. I thought there was stuff in there. There it is. All right, so I've got that All-American in there. And I'm going to grab that All-American Apps, and I'm going to add that. And don't worry about that right now. It's not going to show when we bring this up, but I'll show you how to bring that up in just a second. So let's bring this up. Now, you notice I just added All-American Apps. But I've got All-American here, but I don't have All-American Apps, even though it's in the folder. All right, so I'm going to add it right now. How do I do that? I'm going to click on here. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to say Add Existing Project. All right, and again, this is in my Chapter 10 programs. Maybe it's in the other one. Chapter 10 Program Solution. And notice there's All-American Apps. So if I click on that right there, and I click on Open, and there they all are. I'm not sure why it's not bringing it in, but it's not. So let's see. I didn't think I'd have to bring it in like this. Maybe I do. All right, so we'll bring in that one, click Open, and now we've got this multiple form. Let's try doing it again. So I'm going to close all of these. So again, I'm going to right mouse click on my solution and choose Add Existing Project, Chapter 10 Solution, All-American Apps. There's multiple form and multiple forms. That's interesting. So now I've got two of them. I've got a multiple form and a multiple forms. And let's do it one last time. And I'm going to choose the one form. All right, so I've got all that stuff in there. I don't care right now about that. I want to come in and start to create the app that I showed you right here. So it's a conversion app. Okay, so let's right mouse click, Add New Project, and let's call it what it is. It'll be a Windows Forms, and we'll just call it Conversion App. That's fine. And click Create. There it is. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's give it a different color. I think green's the one we haven't used in a bit, so I'll grab that. And I'm going to immediately change the name of this. So from form1.cs, I'm going to call it FRM Conversion. So I'm going to rename to FRM Conversion. When I hit enter, it'll say, do you want to change all references? Yes, we do. So that's changed. I think that all they have up here for text is just conversion. So that's now been changed. I believe if I take a look at it, that's what it says. Conversions. Okay, I'll put an S in there. So we will want 1, 2, 3, right in here, 1, 2, 3 labels. That's a drop-down list. And these are 2 text boxes. That is read-only. I will add a clear button in here also. Okay, just to show you some of the stuff we can do if we want to. All right. So let me build that for you right now. So I'm going to start out here, and let's put in our buttons first, just so we've got them. So again, as always, we will be adding 3 buttons. We will have a calculate button, a clear button, and an exit button. So this will be our BTN calculate. It will have the text on it of calculate. And we will play with the font. So I will make the font 18.25 as I've been doing. and we'll set the bold. There we go. So we've got one. There will be our second button. There will be our third button. So this second button will be BTN clear, and it'll have the text of clear. And the last one will have the text of exit. I don't want that. I don't know how I did that, but go. So this will have the text of exit, and it will have the name of BTN exit. All right, so I've got my buttons done. Let's do the labels next. Whoops. There's my label. Get that button back. There we go. So this label, as always, I'm going to first start by going to the auto size and setting it to false. Make this a little bit bigger here. The labels say conversion, meters, and feet. I'm going to change that, but you're going to see what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it in just a minute. So LBL conversion, and the text will be conversion. Okay. Again, we will set the font size to 18.25, and we will set the bold to true. Okay. Plus, I like to, just because it's the way I am, set my text align to middle right. So I've got that done. I'm going to add two more of these. I'm going to move this down quite a bit. Why? You're going to see in a minute. And we'll move these down as well. That looks okay. All right. So this second one, now what we see here is it says meters and feet. I don't want that. I want this to say from and this to say to. And if you say why, I'm going to show it to you as we start writing the program. So this will be LBL from, and it's going to say from. This will be LBL to, and it will have the text on it to. All right, that's all done. Let's go up to here, and we're going to find the combo box, which we're going to add right now. And I'm going to make that about, let's make it a little wider. Let's leave it, for now, we'll leave it there, and let's move these over a little bit. There. Now I can move this over and line it up here. That looks okay. Again, I'm going to make this 18 point. And again, I'm going to make the bold set to true. All right, this is going to have a bunch of stuff in it in just a second. The from is going to be a text box. We are again going to set the font on there to, again, 18.25 and bold, plus, because I like to do it this way, my text align, I'm going to set to center. All right, and then I'm going to paste that. This one right here is going to end up in just a moment. This is going to end up being read-only. So this is a combo box, which you usually, so I'm going to call this CBO conversion. And I've got my LBL conversion. There's my LBL from. So this will be TXT from. This is my LBL2, so this will be my TXT2. And I believe I've already renamed all my buttons. So let's lock our interface into place. Now it is. Looks okay. It's not fantastic. It sure isn't bad. All right, and let's do what we usually do, and that is we're going to come here. I'm going to go to the accept button, and I'm going to set it to BTN cancel. That's our default if we hit enter. Then I'm going to go to the cancel button and set it to BTN clear. That's our default if we hit escape. All right, let's go down to start position and set it to center screen. All right, then let's set our tab order. This will be 0. And this will be 1. We're not going to set this next because that's going to be read only in a minute. So this will be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, do another view tab order. And let's start to add the framework for our buttons. That'll be our calculate. Think about what we want to have happen when we click clear. We want this to clear, we want this to clear, and we want this, which is going to say at the beginning something like, please choose, I don't know, please choose a conversion. All right, we want to set it to that. So basically reset, clear, clear, set the focus there. So I'm going to say CBO conversion dot selected index equals 0, because that'll set it to the first one. Then I'm going to say txt from.text is equal to nothing. txt2.text is equal to nothing. And finally, CBO conversion.focus. Now, I don't think it's going to give us an error if we do this, but so let's run it. So file, good time to do a save all. Oops, we have to, of course, come back in here, right mouse click, and choose Set as Startup Project. All right, so there it is. There is our cursor. We can put stuff in there. We can put stuff in here and in here. We can clear. And notice it's saying this is out of range because we don't have anything in there yet. We're going to fix that in just a moment. That's a runtime error. We didn't get the error until we ran the program. Nothing showed in our error window here. So again, it was a runtime error. All right. So a couple more things we want to do here. Let's put in our code for our exit button. So we'll call this exit the program. And we'll put it down here, private void exit the program. And as always, I will add that code. So let me bring that up. And we'll put exit button in here. Grab the code from here. And paste it in there. There's that. Plus, I like to write these in different routines. So I'm going to call this clear the GUI. We'll write that right down here. Oops, I don't want that. Now I can paste that in. So now I've got those two routines. Should still run the same. All right, so clear. I'm going to still get that error. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in just a moment. But if I run it again and click exit, the exit should be functional now. I have to run the program first, though. Exit, no, exit, yes. All right, so everything's working right now the way that it should be. Now, I've got two choices here. Let's just assume that in here I wanted this to have the numbers 1 to 5. We're just going to pretend that for a minute. So in there I want the numbers from 1 to 5. There's two ways that I can add these. In design mode, I can go right here and I can go to my collections and I can hit the ellipsis that comes up and I can type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and click OK. And you'll notice if I do that, when I run the program, it now has in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it that way. It's not really what you would probably refer to, though, as being interactive. So we're going to make it interactive. But before we do, we're going to come in and we're going to add some constants for our program. Okay, we're only going to have one global variable in here, but we're going to have lots of global constants. I always put my global constants right underneath the initialize component routine. So I'm going to come in here and say global constants. And like I said, there's probably going to be about a 15 or so. So const double, and I made these big just so you're aware of it. These names are long. Okay, you've been warned. So const double number of centimeters in 1 inch, and it's equal to 2.54. There's my first one. Another const double. In fact, there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. There'll be 8 of these. So I'm just going to copy this. It'll give me errors. Don't worry. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. So the next one will be number of millimeters in 1 inch, and that is equal to 25.4. Because I'm a little anal about this, I like my stuff to line up. I could use decimals in here also. Number of meters in 1 foot, and that's equal to 0.3048. Again, I like this stuff to line up. Next is number of centimeters in 1 foot, and that's equal to 30.48. That over 1, there we go. All right, my next one is number of inches in 1 foot. You already know that that's 12.0. Just 12 would have sufficed also. The next one will be number of meters in 1 yard, and that's going to be equal to 0.9144. These are, I'm going to show you where I got these numbers, etc. in just a moment. This will be number of centimeters in 1 yard, and that is equal to 91.44. And finally, we will have number of feet in 1 yard, and you all know that's equal to 3 or 3.0. Okay, so those are my first 8 constants. They're gray because they're not yet being used, and that's fine. We're going to use them in just a moment. All right, I'm going to, while I'm here, because I'm going to make 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to make 9 string constants, and then I'm going to make 6 more string constants. So I'm going to add here, so const string, and I call this PCAC. What does that mean? It stands for please choose a conversion. Okay, this is the stuff. Okay, and I'm going to put here a comment. Constants used in calculations. Okay, and these will be constants used in our combo box. Okay. Again, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these. There's one. So I'm just going to grab that const string, paste to, whoops, I don't want to do that. Let's just do this. All right, so let's make these right now intos, and that's going to be equal to inches to centimeters. And you can see I tried to be a little bit where it would make some sense here. So that's IN for inches, 2 for 2, cm for centimeters. So you're going to see a bunch of these now. The next one will be INTOMM, which hopefully you already figured out is inches to millimeters. All right, the next one will be FTTOME, which is going to be feet to meters. The one after that will be FTTOCM, which is going to be feet to centimeters. Again, these are the values that we're going to use in just a moment, and this will fill up our drop-down list. All right, did we have to do it this way? Of course not. There's always plenty of ways to do this. So the next will be feet to inches, and that'll be equal to feet to inches. We've got 3 more. This one, whoops, will be yards. I don't know what I did there. This first one will be yards to meters. The next one will be yards to centimeters. And the last one will be yards to feet. Could have also done a yards to inches. I left it, just stopped it here. So in just a moment, when we add the code into our forms load event, what I want to have happen is I'm going to create an array with these 9 different string constants in it. Then I'm going to take that array and I'm going to use it to fill up this list box that's right here. And again, is that the only way of doing it? The answer is definitely not. But it is a way of doing it, and it is the way that I chose to do it. All right, so we are going to do that right now. So to open up our load event, I can do this and view the code and find it, but it's not here. All right, so what do? Well, there are different ways of doing it. One way is I could just double click on the form here, but another way of doing it is to click on the lightning bolt here. So I'm on the form. If I click on the lightning bolt, one of the things that's there is the form's load event. And if I click on that, you'll notice that it opens it up. Again, there's plenty of ways of doing this. So I'm going to make a string array, so string bracket bracket that I'm going to call conversions, and I'm going to set it equal to the following. And again, I do some things, and sometimes people go, why did you do it like this? And when I go back and answer because I did, they don't like that particular, mode of thought. In other words, well, what does that mean? I just do it sometimes the way that I do it, and I can't give you a better reason than that. All right, so I'm going to have that please choose a conversion, and that will be followed by inches to millimeters, which will be followed by, I guess I wanted centimeters first, which will be followed by inches to millimeters. All right, and then we're going to have feet to meters. Again, I'm a little squirrely about this. I like stuff to line up, so feet to centimeters, feet to inches, yards to, now this won't line up, yards to meters, yards to centimeters, yards to meters, yards to centimeters, and yards to feet. Okay, so that is everything that I wanted in here. Okay, so I've made this string array. This is very similar to what they did in the book. All right, now I'm going to tell it, so create string array used to fill up list box. Not the list box, it's a combo box. It's also called a drop-down list. Okay, all right. And this will be actually fill up the combo box with the string array entries. There's different ways of doing it. I'm going to do it the same way they did it in the book, using a for each loop. So for each conv in conversions, so for each single conversion that we're going to use in here, I want to say CBO conversions, CBO conversion dot items dot add conv. Now what did that do? Okay, that created the array. This should fill up the list box if we did it correctly. So let's save this and run the program. And you go, there's nothing there. Well, is that true? I got to remove that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in just a second. I'll manually go in and remove those. And then we're going to have this. Now, the only problem is, let me go in and first remove that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that are in there now. All right, so I've got to find the items. And now I can remove this. I don't need any of that. So let's see, make sure that worked. So file, save all. Now when the program runs and we click that, there we go. Okay. Wouldn't it be nice if we had this please choose a conversion chosen when the program starts to run? I think it would. So I'm going to come in, and in my forms load event, after I do all this stuff, I'm going to make the first entry, we'll say active. If you say I don't know what that means, just watch. So CBO conversion dot selected index equals 0. What did that do? Again, run it to show you. Now that one is the active one. Okay? Now what I want to have happen, if you look up on the screen here, is if I click this, I want this to change. I don't want it to say from, I want it to say inches, and I want this to say meters, centimeters. If I choose this one, then I want this to say feet, and I want this to say meters. If I choose this one, I want that to say yards and centimeters. You get the idea, hopefully, as we start going through this. Now, one thing, just so you know, there is no magical way to center this stuff that's in here. Sometimes people really don't like that, but I'm just going to live with it, and it's fine the way it is. All right? So the next thing I want to do is I want to jump back up to where my constants are. And so far I added these that aren't being used. That's why they're gray. Notice these are being used, so they're not gray. And I also want to add, all right, just a couple more string constants. And for those string constants, what I want them to say, okay, yeah, I'm cheating here. I'm looking at my notes as I'm going through this. All right, I'm going to have const string in. Typically your constants are in uppercase, equals inches const string cm equals centimeters, const string mm equals millimeters, const string me equals meters, const string ft equal feet, const string yd equal yards. Now these particular constants, these things you see here, they are going to be inches, centimeters, millimeters, etc. That is what's going to go in the from and the to right here. In fact, these probably are not big enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two things. I'm going to unlock my controls, and I'm going to drag them way the hay over so they're almost to the end. And I'm going to relock my controls. Okay, if you say, what did you do, etc., you'll see it as the program goes on. What I want to do is when I'm running the program, and I've shown you this already, but I want you to see this. When it says, please choose a conversion, I want that to say from and that to say to. When I click inches to millimeters, I want the from to now say inches, and I want the to now say millimeters. Every time I click this and choose a different option, what's happening in there is what's referred to as a change event is taking place. Okay? So if I come back in here and I double click on this, notice there's my selected index changed event. That's what I meant. The index is changing. So what do I want to do each time the index changes? Well, I'm writing it this way, and this isn't the way that I wrote it when I did it previously, but I'm writing it this way just to kind of show you what's going on in here. All right, hopefully at least, this is going to help with your understanding. All right, so let me put this in. Now notice when we do this, there are, run it again, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 options. So again, if I choose this one, that should say yards, that one should say feet. If I choose this one, that one should say feet, that one should say centimeters, etc. All right, so let me stop the run here. And we're going to put that in right now. All right, so this is in the selected index changed. All right, now I'll write a routine here and I'll call it change labels, just change labels. Boom, and I'm going to write that right here. Private void change labels. All right, and rather than having to always say CBO conversion dot selected index, which is a lot to type in, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say int idx equals that. So rather than having to type this over and over and over again, now I can just refer to it as idx. All right, when this program begins, all right, I want my from LBL, I can say a label, it doesn't matter. I want that to be equal to the word from, and my to label to be equal to the word to. Okay? Now, when I did this, and I didn't make that I don't know, capitalized, nor did I make that. I can do that right now. I don't have to, but let's make all of these capitalized just because it'll look a little nicer, a little more uniform. So conversion and from and to. Okay, Just kind of like the way that looks a little bit better. All right, so let me do a file, save all, and let's go back in again and write this routine. Oh, I don't want my form load. I want it here. All right, so my change labels. So what I want to do is I want to switch on the index that goes in there. If the index is 0, it's please choose a conversion. If it's 1, it'll be the first one, etc. If nothing is chosen, and that shouldn't happen, then the index is -1. All right, so let's write that. So I'm going to do a switch. Now I could just do a switch on this. So I could do a switch on all of this, but that's why I gave it a nicer name. Makes it a little bit easier to understand. All right. So if the case is -1 or if the case is 0, I don't want to do anything. So I'm just going to say break. I've already got this. It says from and this says to. So that'll work with that one. Okay? But I need to put in my other cases. So my case 1, and I'm just going to type in here break. Why? Because I'm going to copy these. So that'll be case 1, case 2, case 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this will be my default. And for the default, I'm also just going to break. So this will be my case 8, my case 7, and you'll notice as I change them, the errors are going away. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Now, right now, with just a break statement in there, nothing is happening. All right? But you'll see exactly why I'm doing this, hopefully, in just a second. So here I want my from label, okay, to be equal to IN for inches. I want my to label to be equal to CM for centimeters. Okay, again, I'm just going to copy this down every time. They have to all change, but there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so this one's now done. So these are done, and this one is now done. Okay, all right. Let's save that. So if it's a 2, I want this to be inches, and I want this to be millimeters. If it's a 3, I want this to be feet. And I want this to be meters. If it's a 4, I want this to be feet. And I want this to be centimeters. If it's a 5, I want this to be feet. And I want this to be inches. If it's a 6, I want this to be YD for to be yards. And I want this to be ME for meters. If it's a 7, I want this to be YD for yards, and I want this to be CM for centimeters. And finally, if it's an 8, I want this to be yards, and I want this to be feet. Now you'll start to see the magic, so to speak. So file, save all, and let's run the program. Now there's no conversions that are going to happen yet, but watch how these two things change. So when I choose the first one, inches to centimeters, nothing happened. Well, that is, oh, I have to tell it to print that out. I'm sorry. So after we finish our switch statement here, I want txt from.text to be equal to our from label, and I want txt 2.text to be equal to our to label. That's literally all we have to do now. Now let's see what happens if there's any magic. Notice it stays at from to because we haven't told it what conversion. Now, when I choose this, then this should become inches and this should become centimeters. Oh, put it in the wrong place. It's not L, it's LBL from, and it's LBL to. Oh boy. So file, save all. Let's run it again. So, see how those changed? And so did those, and those, and those. All right. Looking pretty good right now. So a couple more things. First thing is, and it's not a big thing, but I'm going to jump back into here because I like it when there's colons on the end here too. Just looks a little more uniform with what's up above. These are our 6 types of measurements. So again, this will fill in the from and to labels if as necessary. So you'll notice with what I just changed, now when we run this and I grab a different one, these will have colons on the end. Okay? See that? Right there. And since I'm putting colons on the end there, I should also put colons on from here and to here. There we go. So if I choose any of these, so yards and meters, etc. So that's done. Now, what do we have to do? Well, we have to do our conversions. Where did I get these conversions from? All right, I'm going to show you. I literally Googled measurement conversion formulas, and I got them from right here. So I'm going to try to grab this and put this in as a comment. We don't have to do this, but I'm going to put this in, and I'll put it in at the very top of the program. Okay, I don't need this stuff. So right under my using statements, I'm going to add a comment here. Right there. Okay. And I'm going to put it there. So again, I got that from Google. And let me pretty this up a little bit, which I should have done anyway. So let me just bring it here. Moving stuff up here. All right, so that's where I got those particular values from. Was just literally doing a Google search. Nothing more, nothing less. Except I think this meant 91 point, not 0.44 centimeters, not a comma there. That didn't make any sense. Okay. Change this to centimeters. And that becomes feet. Okay. And if I want to, I could be really, I'm not going to, it's fine. Okay. So we've got that. Now, what do we want to do next? Well, play computer. I don't want that. First of all, that's going to now be, I want to make that read only because that's my answer. So I'm going to go to the read only, set it to true. I don't like the gray color, so I'm going to go back and set my back color to one shade darker green. Again, no reason that you have to do this. So there's that. Okay. But I want to make sure I have chosen something here, I guess. And I also want to make sure, all right, I want to make sure that this is not empty. I want to make sure that that is numeric, and I want to make sure that it's positive. Okay, so these are all the things I want to do in my calculate routine. Okay, so let's put in here, perform the conversion. Okay, and it doesn't exist, so we'll write it right underneath here. Private void, perform the conversion. Okay, so what do we want to do first? Okay, I want to say basically, let's see. I want to say if the CBO selected the CBO conversion dot selected index, if it's less than or equal to 0, means I haven't chosen anything yet. So if it's less than or equal to 0, what does that mean? So I'm going to put a comment here that says check for nothing in combo box. All right. So let's put that in its own routine. And we'll call this, we'll do a bool, keep going. And I'm going to set that equal to is combo box empty. Okay. So this will be our private void. Sorry, it will be a bool. Is combo box empty. You've seen this kind of thing before. All right. And I'm first going to come in and make my return value, my ret val, and I'm going to set that equal to true. And down at the bottom here, I'll just say return ret val. And that'll remove any errors and warnings that I have. So I'm going to come in here now. I'm going to paste this in. All right, so if this is less than or equal to 0, that means check for nothing in combo box or perform, what do we call that? Or please choose a conversion. All right, in combo box. Either way, I don't want to do the calculation. So if that happens, I'm going to call show message, which I'll write down at the bottom of my screen here. So we will put that into here. Private void show message. It will have a string, which will be the message, and another string, which will be the title. And in here, we will do our message box dot show, and notice how it fills in everything nicely for me. Okay. Put everything, each one of these on its own line. And there's that. That's just a message box that I'm going to show. So I'm going to say here, show message, you must choose a calculation. And then I will put here, no calculation option chosen. Again, it's always easiest to write this and then show you what I've done after I've done it. So let's run this. Now notice nothing's chosen. No calculation option chosen. You must choose an option. I also want to come back up here and reset the focus. So let's stop the run. And let's say we'll set the selected index to 0. And we'll set the focus. Okay. So come here. It's not set. Get our message. Just resets it, and the cursor is right there. Okay. Okay, that's good. So now we've handled that. Now we have to handle the stuff for our from label. So we're going to say there if. Now, is combo box empty? If it's true, the combo box was empty. Okay, so we could say here if keep going, meaning it's true. In other words, combo box was empty. So if that's the case, we can just return. Otherwise, we really don't need an else there, but I'll put it in anyway. Otherwise, keep going equals, now what do we want to do? Well, we want to say is from text box empty. We haven't written that yet, so we'll get an error. And I'm going to come down here and do a private bool for that. Now, it's not the same thing, but I'm going to just grab this stuff here because it's pretty similar. All right. So, red fail. So check for nothing now in the from text box. So, if txt from dot text, let's even trim it, dot trim, if that is equal to nothing, you must input a from value. And I'm going to say from text box empty. All right, so there's nothing in there. Now what we want to do is there shouldn't be anything in there, but we can do it. We can remove it anyway. So I'm going to say txt from dot text equals nothing, and txt from dot focus. Now we should have handled there being nothing in that from text box. So we come in here. Remember, if we put nothing here, we're going to get that message. But let's just choose something and leave that blank. And it's not showing us anything. Equals nothing, show the message, reset it, return ret val. So this will be ret val equals, and actually if there's nothing in there, then it'll be true. And this really should be false. And in the same way, is combo box empty? That should be false. And if it is empty, we should set that equal to true. I'm going to run it again, and hopefully it'll work better in just a second. Now we want to say if keep going again, return. So this means that the from text box was empty. And I'm going to put an else in here, but I'm not going to do anything right now for the else. We will do that in just a minute. Let's see if that works now. So if we didn't choose anything, no calculation option chosen, must choose an option. Now the from text box is empty. You must enter a from value. So that's good. We've done that so far. All right, so we've handled, like I said, there's 4 things we have to do here. This needs to have an option chosen. This can't be empty. This must be numeric. This must be positive. So we've done that, having an option. We've done that, can't be empty. So the next one we want to do is we want to have check for it, make sure it's numeric. So we will say keep going equal is from text box numeric. We haven't written it yet, so again, we'll get an error. Private, void, and again, even though it's not the same, it's not a void, it's a bool. So I'm going to get an error there. I'm going to copy this code in. Even though it's not the same, then I'll make changes to it. You don't have to do that. You can write it from scratch every time. So I'm going to have my return value. I'm also going to have a Boolean called result. And I'm going to set that equal to, I won't even give it a value. And I'm going to have a double that's going to be called value. And I can set that to 0.0 when we start. All right, so I'm not checking for nothing in there anymore. No. What I want to do is I want to come in here and say result equals, and this double value here, this I actually want to make that global because I want to use that more than one routine. So where I've got these up here, I'm going to add one global variable. There's that. All right, so I want to come in here is text box numeric. So result equals double dot try parse. Okay, so I'm going to try to parse what's in that from text box, and I want to put the result in value. All right, now if it's non-numeric, all right, then it won't have worked. So if not result, okay, we'll put a message in here that says you must input a number in the from value. So I'm going to say here from text box non-numeric. It's kind of hard to read this, so let's do this. Like that. There we go. So let's try that. So if that happens, we put something non-numeric, we'll remove it, we'll reset the focus. We don't need this CBO conversion dot focus. Did I put that up there also? Nope, we don't need that there. There. And we return. Now, we're going to have to make a check for that one too. So we'll say here, if keep going, and if that's the case, the from text box was non-numeric. So if that's the case, we're going to do one thing, and if it's not, we're going to do something else. Okay, so let's see now. We should be able to handle 3 of our 4 cases. With nothing there, no option chosen, you must choose a calculation. I don't like that it says calculation. I should just say no option chosen. You must choose, well, a calculation option would be better. So let's change that. You must choose a calculation option. All right, I think that'll read a little bit better, but maybe I'm wrong. So with nothing there, you must choose a calculation option. Good. All right, so if I choose an option, now it's saying that the text box is empty, so that's working. I didn't break anything. And if I put in something non-numeric, from text box non-numeric, you must choose a number. Okay? Okay. Now we've got 3 of our 4 checks done. The only other check we have to make is we should make sure whatever number we put in here is greater than 0. So we want to say keep going is equal to is from text box value positive. Okay. Oops. And again, that'll be not in here. This will be return. And that'll go right here. We didn't write that yet. We will in just a moment. So if keep going, that means from text box was less than or equal to 0. So if that's the case, we don't want to. We want to return. Otherwise, we'll be doing something in a minute. But let's write this first. This is a simple one. Now we've already gone through here. We've already gone through here and verified that value holds whatever we just parsed. So we've got that value in there already. So I'm going to come in here and type in private bool. All right. And like I said, this should be a very short, I believe, all right, routine, just a few lines. So again, we will say bool retval equal true, and down at the bottom we will return retval. Now all of our errors should be gone from here, and they are gone from here, and they're gone from over in here too. See that? So that's all gone. So all we have to say in here is if the value is less than or equal to 0, again, what does that mean? That means negative from input. So if that's the case, we'll call our show message and we'll say you must enter a positive from value, and for the message we'll just say negative from value inputted. So let's see if that works in just a second. So this is again going to be false. And if that's the case, we can now set retval equal to true. So I like to always go back and double check everything. So if nothing is chosen, no calculation option chosen, you must choose a calculation option. If we choose, and this is empty, from text box empty, you must input a from value. If it's non-numeric, from text box non-numeric, you must enter a number in the from, that should say in the from text box. We'll fix that in a minute. And this will say if I put in a negative number, negative value, you must enter a positive from value. So what did we have in here again? You must input a from value will actually make sense. Okay, we'll leave it like that. So if I get down to this point, okay, so if I get down to here, the combo box was not empty. If I get down to here, good golly, the from text box was not empty. Okay, if I get down to here, the from text box was numeric. And if I get down to here, the from text box value was positive. So I'm ready to do the calculation. And let's write another routine to call it. Do the perform the calculation. It's also going to display it, but I think that's fine. So perform the calculation. Again, I get the error because that has not yet been written. That will be a void because it's not returning anything. All right. And actually, this isn't bad. There's different ways that we can write this. Okay, we can write this in different ways, but the way that I am going to write it is I'm just going to do another switch. So I want to come in here, and like we did before, I'm going to say int idx for our index is equal to CBO conversion selected index. And then I'm going to say double result. That's going to be the calculation we make. And I'm making that equal to 0.0. That's not that big a thing what you call that. All right, it's a user preference. So I'm going to do a switch, not a which, a switch on the index. And in many ways, this will look similar to what we did before. So if it's case -1, this should not be possible. This means combo box is empty. All right, so I'm going to just put in here a show message. Should never be hit. And we'll just say error condition. And we'll break. Okay, so that's if the index was a -1. Okay, let's copy this down. And how about the case of 0? And I'm going to change this to no option selection. No option. No combo box selection made. All right, so if that's the case, I'll say just that. No conversion selected. Okay, and we'll just make this no selection made. All right, so I've handled 0 and 1. Now I can do the other ones, which will actually be a lot easier. So if it's a 1, what did we select? Well, selected just look up here. So it's a 1, we selected inches to centimeters. So inches to centimeters. All we have to do in here is say result is equal to value times number of centimeters in 1 inch and break. Okay. Let me move this over. I want to make sure everybody can read this. All right. So let's put the rest of them in. X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll even put a default in there. Hopefully I put in enough, but we'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, 4, 5, 6, 7, oopsie, 7, 8, and our default. And if it's a default, should be some kind of an error condition. So we'll just do a break. So those two are done. Now, those two are done. All right, so let's just start bringing these down. So that was inches to centimeters. This next one is inches to millimeters. All right. The next one will be feet to, I believe it's feet to centimeters. Double check. Feet to meters and then feet to centimeters. Okay, so this is the number of meters in 1 foot. This is the number of centimeters in 1 foot. All right. What do we got left? Five. So this is, we've now handled this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So we need feet to inches, then yards to meters. This next one, like I said, should be yards to meters, I believe. All right, you'll know if I make a mistake. So if I misspelled this, it'll go red right away. Well, maybe not right away, but it will go. There we go. All right, so we've got 7 and 8 to go here. So we need yards to centimeters and yards to feet. And this is the number of centimeters in 1 yard. And this is the number of feet in 1 yard. Okay. I have no errors showing here. Finally, the last thing I want to do is I literally have to fill up that. So I have to say this is my 2, txt2.text equals that result dot toString, and let's make it, I don't know, we'll make it 4 decimal places. More than we probably need, but we'll do it like that. Okay? And hopefully at least that's everything, but let's try it. Now I'm not going to go back again and check my error conditions because I already did that. All right, so I'm gonna do these. So let me go in here and just use the ones that I had. So let me grab these. I'm going to grab this again, copy it, and let's put it right there. Okay. This is going to flip off the screen in a second, but that's okay. So I'm going to go from inches to centimeters. So if I put a 1 in here, I should get in the other one 2.54. So 1, 2.5400. Clear it. Let's do inches to millimeters with a 1 in here. That should be 25.4. And it is. Clear it. Choose the third one. Feet to meters. 1 foot, that should give me 0.3048. Oops. Try that again. Feet to meters, make that a 1. 0.3048, that's good. Next, if I go from feet to centimeters, and I put in a 1 and calculate, this should give me 30.48, and it does. So that these first 4 here, these worked. So we've got the next 4 to do here. All right. So next, if I go from feet to inches, you all know those. And I got a 1 here. Okay. So 1 foot equals 12 inches, which is right. If I go from yards to meters and I put a 1 in here, that should be 0.9144, and it is. The next one, I believe this is right. Again, that should be, if I do the next one, yards to centimeters, and I do a 1, that should be 91.44. And finally, when I do the last one, yards to feet, and I do that, that should be 3. They all work. There's only one thing I don't like, and then we're finished. All right, so let me clear, let me exit. And I want to come in here. All my calculations work, but when I change type, that was the thing we did. I don't know where we did it. In here, when we changed the type. All right. Wouldn't it have been nice if we had nothing in our text boxes? So I'm going to say here, text box, txt from dot text is going to be equal to nothing. and txt2.text is going to be equal to nothing. I think that that'll make it look a little bit nicer. Just if you say I don't know what you mean, let's run it again. So notice if I come in here and I go to feet to meters, I'll put in here 23, and boom, I picked the value. Now when I go in and change this to a different one, notice how those values disappear. I like that. The other thing I could do, just because it's a nicety, would be to say txt from dot focus. Set the focus there. I don't need to set to focus, so try that one more time. So we will change this. Feet to meters, we'll put in 12. That gives us an answer. When I click here and choose a different one now, this should disappear, and my cursor should go right there. And that's exactly what happened. All right. The program now, in my humble opinion, is about as done as I can get it. There's ways it could be improved, but it's fine the way it is. So I'm going to do a file, save all. And that'll be it for this presentation.